Good day. I'm Corey Hynes, the founder and executive chairman for Skillable, and today we're talking about how we master AI skills training in 2025. I've been in this industry now for embarrassingly probably close to 30 years, and AI represents one of those sort of transformative moments in not just how we interact with software, but how we build and think about everything that surrounds software. I'm reminded of when cloud kind of first became a thing. And we went through major transformations across every industry because we had to rethink the fundamentals of how we train people, how we validate skill, and how we build and work with this sort of new world of software. So many companies at that stage in the game would simply, come to us and say, hey, we need to learn cloud. And the reality was actually very, very different. So we're going to talk about two things as we work through this today. The first thing is, do your people actually need AI training? It's an interesting question. You would assume that the answer is yes, but in many cases, the answer is no. And then as a result of AI, how has training and assessment changed? How has it evolved? What's different? How do we need to think about new things? So for a little bit of context, Skillable, we've been around 25 years, but we provide a hands-on learning platform, essentially hands-on labs that are scored. You can go into the software, perform tasks, and we can tell you whether or not you did those tasks correctly. And because of that, we've got this really unique perspective across all sorts of industries. Our clients range from big Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies to individuals and large companies that are building training to companies that deliver training on global scales and some of the biggest software platforms that are out there. So we have the benefit of this very, very diverse view across this entire ecosystem. Now, you might be wondering, well, if you've never worked with a lab, what does it look like? It's kind of something like this. We give you a software environment, we give you instructions, and then we can score whether you actually did those tasks in the software environment or not. And that produces really, really good information, tells you whether or not someone can actually do the work. And these can be designed in any way. They can be designed for practicing, they can be designed for education and learning, and they can be designed for all forms of skills assessment, whether it's really low stakes or right up to embedding these types of things in certification exams. So, first thing is, most organizations, when they come to us and say, hey, look, we need to teach people AI. Everyone's got to learn AI. Most organizations initially get it wrong. And the reason they get it wrong is because they come to us with these kinds of questions. Hey, our people need to learn ChatGPT. We need to build a copilot. We've got to deploy AI, whatever that means. We need to learn, they're following the hype train and assuming that because AI is, they hear about it in the news, they hear about it in industry, and they assume that, in order to take advantage of this, they've got to teach their people AI. We have a little bit of a different take, having had many, many of these conversations with many customers around the world. And here's, when they come to us with those questions, this is usually what they really mean. I just need my people to be more productive, and I hear AI can help me be more productive. Okay, great. We hear AI, especially generative AI, can make our software experiences better. How do my developers layer generative AI into the software that we're building? And if we're going to do that, my administrators and systems engineers and cloud engineers, how do they deploy all these things in a safe and secure way? I've heard horror stories about, people misconfiguring AI and it, digging through emails and finding things. And how do I do this all safely? And then this one is actually the rarest of them. How do I build and train my own models? And in fact, most people never actually say this, but indirectly, that's kind of what they mean. So a big part of this is when you think, hey, do I need to learn AI, is figuring out what is it you're actually trying to accomplish and whether or not you actually have to learn AI to accomplish those tools. Now, let me kind of elaborate on what I mean here. Here's a breakdown of 5 of the most common job roles. Again, a little bit generic. These can be taken, different ways by different organizations, but 5 of the most common job roles that are impacted by AI and need in some way to learn AI. The first one, and this goes back to the sort of that first question of, look, just make me be more productive and be more efficient. End users, task workers, whether they're in a call center, whether they're, on a sales force, whether they're in marketing, whatever role they're in, they just want to be better at their jobs. Typically, what they're trying to learn how to use is commercial AI tools. Now, you don't necessarily need to understand how AI works or what it does or how you build it to use commercial AI tools like a Copilot. You simply have to have, basic awareness of what's going on and some skills in prompt engineering. And to do that, you can become more efficient, but you're not necessarily learning AI. Yes, prompt engineering to a degree is a skill, but that's not a terribly difficult skill to learn. The second one is sort of knowledge workers and managers that want to be more efficient. And typically with this type of a profile, again, they're just using commercial AI tools, but now they're using commercial AI tools that the company's deployed that's grounded within their own data, within their own applications, and they're learning how to use that in a safe and secure way. The most common version of this that we see right now is within Microsoft 365. Companies deploy Microsoft 365, it has access to emails and documents. They do it in a safe and secure way, and now you've got a cohort of people that want to use it and become more efficient with it, doing simple things like meeting notes. The next sort of group of people are software developers and engineers, and this is the group that, they want to build AI-powered software. They're not building AI, but they want to take advantage of the plethora of commercial AI services and tools that are available today to simply make their software better, or in some cases, code more efficiently. Tools like Visual Studio, for example, now support AI-generated code. So how do they use tools like that, which is in a way similar to the end-user paradigm? But also, how do I, for example, build a chatbot? Is one of the most common things we see, an AI-powered chatbot within my application. And in many cases, beyond understanding the nature of working with models and what different things do and how they work together, there's nothing truly AI specific about this. They're just consuming a new generation of AI-powered APIs and services that are available to them. Yes, they have to learn AI, but this is not, they're not learning everything and like real deep technical AI knowledge. They just need enough to be able to understand the services they're consuming and to begin to layer them into their application. The last two get a little more involved. Data scientists, AI engineers, this is probably the smaller quantum of people, but they're actually trying to build their own models, whether it's through data science, whether through model training, or maybe on the less elaborate scale, building their own GPTs with various commercial tools. Those are new jobs, those are new skills. That's where you're going to spend a fair amount of time. But again, this is not going to be a huge number of individuals. The final one is machine learning AI ops. This is kind of it's a new job role that we're seeing begin to emerge, and they're deploying AI for the company. So for them, it's a lot about, hey, if we're deploying, with AWS or with Azure or with Google or with whatever platform they're choosing, they're learning that platform, how that platform implements AI, the various tools and controls and mechanisms around it, and how they can roll that out just like any new significantly complex commercial service. And this, again, represents sort of maybe not entirely new jobs, but certainly an evolution from some existing roles. A way to think about this is if you look at the blue triangle, this represents the number of individuals that probably need, AI-related training. The black triangle, actually it's a really, really dark green triangle, represents how much they need to learn. And you can see that, as the number of individuals get smaller, the more they need to learn. Most people need to learn very little to be productive and take advantage of the new generation of software and tools that AI is producing today. So you should, feel good about this. It doesn't have to be as big a lift or as intimidating as maybe it might seem on the outset. A big part of this is you have to figure out as an organization what you mean when you say we need to train on AI. And that kind of brings us to the takeaway for this portion, which is you have to work out what you mean when you say we want to teach people AI. Are you really teaching them AI, or are you teaching them how to use the newest generation of software that maybe is powered by AI? And the skills they need are not AI skills, but merely software skills that take advantage of this new set of capabilities that's at their disposal. Take the time to solve this, and I can assure you it'll make your journey to learning AI a whole lot simpler. The next piece that we want to spend a little bit of time working through is how AI has changed how we develop and evaluate skills. So learning and what we need to learn and who needs to learn is one thing, but now we've also evolved how we think about conducting education. You know, back in the day, again, I may be dating myself a little bit, this was skill, right? And some of you may remember this, right? If I'm working in a document, remembering the key combinations, that was the skill that we mastered. AI has changed the definition of a skill. In the past, a skill was based on a process. If you learn the process, you have the skill. With AI, because the process can now be powered by AI-powered agents, because you no longer necessarily need to know the steps to take, the skill is, can you evaluate, describe, and iterate to produce output and results? Where the work is being done by AI, and you as the user, your skill is, can I take a piece of data? Can I describe where I want that piece of data to be transformed or go? Or can I describe the configuration I want implemented such that an AI-powered agent can complete the task? And it's up to me now to evaluate whether or not that agent was successful. So it kind of looks like this visually. We learn a procedure, we practice, we perform a task over and over again. That was the historical definition of a skill. The modern definition of a skill is, can I assess an input, request an outcome, assess the output, and then iterate on it to improve it over time. A simple example of this might be in Microsoft Excel, taking a table, requesting a copilot create a chart or a graph, and then being able to look at what that AI-based agent created and say, yes, that's what I wanted, or no, you got something wrong, and iterate on it to make it better. One of the other pieces that we're seeing is what we're calling, and what we refer to as AI-influenced learning. And again, we'll look at sort of a before and after model to get a sense of what this is. But in the past, the formula for training was really simple. Watch a video, listen to an instructor, perform some practice steps in a lab of some type, take a multiple choice question, get a certification. With generative AI in particular, we can now flip the script on that and have a much more modern learning experience. We can have one where AI generates the learning material on the fly as the user needs it and is fully context aware and provides a much richer, faster, and arguably more effective learning experience. So, this was what IT training looked like for the last 30 years, maybe even longer. Big book, lots of procedures, lots of steps. I taught thousands of classes using models like this. And, I remember going back to a student and saying, hey, the lab is not working. Well, let's go back 15 pages to find where you misread an instruction and you didn't click on something the right way. With AI, now it can look something like this. We can give you outcome-driven instructions and give you the power to choose where you want to interact, to choose, if you don't understand something, whether you want to go deep on it. In this little example right here, we're talking about performing some tasks, and AI is able to generate instructional experiences and even quizzes in real time, assuming the learner wants to do that. If they already know everything about this topic, skip it and move on. But if they don't, they have the option to go deep where they want to go deep. When it comes to performing the task, again, outcome-driven tasks, I want you to perform a task. If you know how to do it, go do it. If you don't, AI can generate the procedures for you on the fly. Now, in this particular example, the author is not writing any of these procedures. AI is creating these procedures using grounded data, grounded back to documentation and instructions, and letting the user choose where they want to go deep, making everything better. And then at the end, they can validate whether or not the work was done. This is the notion of challenge-focused learning instead of procedural-based learning, where you're focused on giving an environment, asking to produce output, and allowing the user to choose how they want to get there, the path they want to take, and getting help when they need to get help. So just like we talked about how AI's evolved the learning that happens in roles, as we think about how it's evolved, how we design training and education, there's really 5 areas that it's hit. The first one is instructional design. We can now ask generative AI to take huge amounts of data, whether it's user data, learning paths, plans, whether it's skill data that we have, documentation that we have, and produce recommendations on things like outlines, suggest the topics I should cover to accomplish this task. We can then ask it to create version 1 of content, right? As an author, generate me instructions, generate procedures, generate text, and then I can go and preview it, approve it, validate it, and choose to use it. We can do things like inline chats, AI-powered chats, and in the example you just saw, generating content on the fly during the consumption phase of learning. For validation, AI can help us generate things like validation scripts, generate questions, right? So it streamlines the notion of content creation. And finally, it can simplify analysis. One of the common things we've seen AI used a lot for recently is in taking learner data, tasks they've completed, activities they've done, comparing that to things like skills, ontologies, and taxonomies, and mapping which users have acquired which skills, which is previously a task that was very difficult and time-consuming to do. So it's really made a drastic steps towards highly personalized learning, where you get exactly what you need when you need it in the format that is applicable and best for you. So if we kind of take away from all this, as we think about developing training in the world of AI, it's no longer about how much content we can produce, but it's about describing the outcomes and allowing the content to be produced by AI in real time. Now, a lot of authors will say, I want control over what gets produced. That's entirely up to you. You can have AI produce it and prove it, or you can, if you train it properly and if you trust it enough, you can have it produced directly for the learner in real time. How you choose to implement this is up to you, but at the end of the day, it saves you an awful lot of time and energy. As we think about measurement of skills, right, now that the procedures and the how we do things become less important, it's no longer measured by the knowledge you have, the fact that you know how to do something, but your ability to assess both input and output and produce output. So can you no longer remember a procedure, but can you take a starting point? Can you ingest and understand a goal? And then can you manipulate the environment to produce the output that you want? So, in practical terms, what does this look like? This is what, questions and exams and certifications have looked like for the last 20, 30, 40 years. You take a whole bunch of multiple choice questions. Right? And if you remember enough facts and you can read the questions well enough, then you're said to have the skill, you have the certification, you have the credential. In the modern world, they now begin to look like this. Instead of being asked questions, you're given projects. And you complete those projects in the real environment, in real time, and you achieve the certification. So what do you take away? Real simple. We're moving from a world where we assess knowledge to a world where we evaluate input, produce an output, and score it. And the use of scored hands-on labs is arguably the best way to do this. Some closing thoughts before we wrap up. First of all, we need to learn AI means a lot of things. It is up to you to figure out what that means for your organization. And in doing so, it can drastically change your strategy. Understand that AI changes how you think about assessing skill, and it changes what a skill is. So as you begin to build a skill development and assessment strategy, understand that shift from knowledge to evaluating, assessing, and iterating. Learning models that embrace AI are going to provide better results than learning models that don't, because they can be more efficient and more personalized, and there are going to be new jobs as a result of AI. Right? There's nothing special about this. When we had cloud for the first time, there were new jobs that were focused on cloud. We just need to plan for this and account for it. So with that, thank you. That was our look at how we master skills AI training in 2025.